third.
When we win, it's a 2-year,
This year will now be a 3-year.
so they've extended it to a
They've extended
3-year.
it to a
So when
3-year.
you win it in 2012, it's a 2-year deal. So
They have 3 different levels.
They win next year.
Yeah, they have 3 different levels. The first year we were at the minimum level. Last year we moved up to the secondary level, and we're hoping that we get to the top level. But those are pretty lofty goals to be able to do that. There's not many that receive that top award.
It's like a few percent, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
a few percent. Systems upgrade progress. We continue to make progress on the biodigester. We did get all the easements approved. We have received the signed documents. The pipeline construction did begin. They did hit a snag this week, though, in that construction process as they were boring. They ran into some ground that caused them difficulty. It was full of rubble, and they weren't able to bore through it, so they had to go deeper. The planned boring was at 4 to 6 feet. They had to go to about 10 feet to get below the rubble. So now they've stopped and they're evaluating what implication that deeper level will have on the overall line.
Pressures, yeah.
Because it is a force main. They are pushing stuff from Lighthouse to our facility, so going lower means that they have to push it up a little higher someplace to get it in. There's also some concern that the pipeline, the force main, could end up being wavy because every 400 feet they have to come up and make a junction. And will they be able to get that junction back down to that 10-foot level? It was fairly easy to do at 4 or 5 feet, but 10 feet might be more difficult, and there may be places where that's below the water table, considering where they're boring. So they pulled off for the rest of the week to reevaluate and see what the implications are to that. But
So we need an archaeological dig.
So they literally hit a snag.
they literally hit a snag. Exactly.
So what's the rubble that's...
We
this
found,
used to be, in that area was farmland.
Mhm.
And if you're familiar with, a lot of farmers would have their own little dump that they
Right.
would dump things. And I don't know that
like all
that's,
the boulders.
but
Yeah, and I just think the geology here. When we dug at the Chatham site, we didn't expect that when they did a lot of that clearing in the back to put the tanks in and stuff. That you go down and you hit some sand, and then after the sand, you hit a layer that's some type of other glacial deposit
Yeah.
that has rubble in it. It's not construction rubble that they ran into. It's just rocks and
So it's a lot of rocky ground.
yeah,
Okay.
rocky ground. So
So it might not even been a farmer. It's
Right.
Been a,
could be just glacial debris.
yeah. Reminds me of watching Tremors. You guys ever seen that movie?
We are looking to put start loading feedstock into the digester in November, and I believe the target to be actually generating electricity is in February. So we're getting close. Work continues on installation of the Rolls-Royce, and we keep moving forward there. I mentioned that our energy systems engineering intern is doing some research on the feasibility of fiber. She's not quite finished with that, so I'm hoping that I have it for you next month. I indicated that I thought I'd have something this month, but she didn't get everything finished that she wanted to. We did have some opportunity to talk with Melanie McCoy. She's the general manager in Sebewing, also at our MMEA conference. They are working on fiber to the home for their community. They're a smaller community than we are. But one of the things that we found out is that a lot of the small communities do start similar to the way that we did, or the way that we have, and that is just installing fiber where they need it. And as the need grows, they add fiber and ultimately end up with a loop. And it's off of that loop that then you can start building a concept of fiber going out to radially off of that to different parts of the community. So again, we already have fiber from our substation on Bowes Road to this facility. We have it from this facility back over to the Chatham building we could continue a loop on around Foreman and G Drive and come back around to the substation. That would be a loop for the west end of town. We have already installed conduit under the river to be part of a loop to the east side of town. Excuse me. And we placed conduit under the bridge when the bridge work was done. So we have a loop potential for conduit that would go over and pick up the city hall and come back around, and could ultimately be connected to DPW and the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant. So what I'm trying to say is that we have in a knowing sense tried to build some fiber in the community that could ultimately be used in that process. And it's similar to how a lot of small communities start. Adopt a Road happened last week.
Can you go back just for a minute?
Yes, sir.
And because of the Lowell Energy Center, will you, and maybe everybody got the email or whatever, last month we proposed, the board wanted you to go back out and resubmit for bids for heating down there.
Oh, yes.
And I would like the community to know
Right.
the results of that.
Right. We did get other bids, and there was a range of bids. I think the original bid that we had was around
26,000.
in that neighborhood. We received a bid at 16, and we received a bid around 10. So we awarded the bid to a local contractor at 10,000 in that ballpark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Adopt a Road cleanup. Thank you to Sharon, Tom, Julie, Mark, and Megan for completing that cleanup last week. And we had our video camera board meeting last month for the first time, and that was on YouTube. So that was something that we were able to get to work. A lot of thanks to Scott at the police department for helping Sharon with that. He was over here several times to help us get that up on the system, so that was good. We've had our buried line policy review. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention. I mentioned earlier that Dick Wynn is still working on a release of liability or a limit liability document that we would give the owners at the time we do final hookup of electricity. And one of the questions kind of came up on the fringe tonight, but I didn't muddy up the waters with pursuing that at the time. One of the questions that Dick Went has is if it does come to our attention that on private property through shift the line is less than what our policy calls for, if we want to require that they repair it or fix it, if we want that in our liability limitation document, if we want to require that they fix it at the time. I'm thinking that normally what would happen is we aren't going to find that out until an incident occurs. And when an incident occurs, then obviously we would require it to be fixed. But if for some reason we find out in some other fashion that it's not appropriate, do we want to make them fix it at that time? And taking it one step further, if they refuse, do we then go ahead and fix it and then charge that to their bill? Because that's an option as well. So how far do we want to take this? It has to be rectified.
So is it really their responsibility?
It was their contractor that did the work.
But I mean, like, over time when the whatever shifting happens, I mean...
Previous owner 20 years earlier could have.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
I mean, I
Those-
guess, I mean, at the very least, I'd maybe want to put in there may require, because I don't think we'd have to.
Right.
Because I mean, the nature of the shift might be that the line's better off where it
Question
is,
safety.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if a tree root caused it to shift, well, then that's got to get fixed. But if, I don't know, it's a bunch of soil eroded away over time and it's been over 30 years, well, that's why we buried it that deep in the first place, so that we had room to modify the grade, so to speak.
Is everybody comfortable with the may require?
But is it really supposed to be their responsibility for those kind of things going forward? I know, like for homeowners, you know, like with sidewalks or something like that, that zoning kind of says, hey, you've got to maintain that. But I don't know that.
There's really no
I
zoning.
guess I don't even know what the real rule is. I mean, if like,
There is no rule. That's the point.
so I mean, do we have to maintain like
There's
the
a,
dirt over our water mains and stuff too? I mean, I don't.
an
I don't know
an
how far that
example that happened to me was my meter was inside.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so at some point, it was inside the house, a low line power. So at some point, if the meter went bad, it was out, it wasn't up to standards. So at that point, I'm grandfathered in, but let's say I do some other construction in the house, or there's something that I have to have done to that electrical service, I then have to bring that up to code, and it's my responsibility and my cost to bring that up to code. So I don't know if that's
Okay.
different than what we're talking about, but if and Tom, you can help out, and I mean, like, if something's not up to code and it gets hit by lightning or whatever, and we have to go in and replace whatever, I believe.
Especially on the A bottom meters, the old bolt-in type, we look at, and they are old, we'll look at the mast, and if the mast itself or the wire comes from the meter socket up to the weatherhead is bare, and most of the time it is because it is so old, we will disconnect them and say, we're not hooking you back up because we don't want to be responsible for a house fire, and you need to get a service upgrade done. Because we won't, and a lot of times we'll get with the electrical inspector and have him verify that and say, look, will you approve this service? And he'll say no, and then we'll disconnect.
Unfortunately, I have a situation, I'm going to have to leave the meeting and turn it over to you, Perry, as vice chair to finish it out from here, so.
Okay.
Apologize for that, but I have a little situation I have to deal with, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, you know, I think,
So I guess it sounds like it. So like my meter in my house, if it one day just like falls off or something, I have to get it fixed, right?
I mean,
If
can
your
I say in
if your
there
meter
that the
socket falls
safety?
off, if your meter falls out, Lowell Power
Is there-
owns the meter, we'll replace the meter.
Oh,
It's
okay.
typically not the meter that's gonna fall out, your meter socket goes
Yeah.
bad. You're responsible for the meter socket itself, and you'll have to hire an electrician.
Because that's the part that's part of the house. You're
Right.
saying. Okay.
Yes. You own everything on the meter socket all the way to the mast where it goes up, and then we make the final connection, and that's where we end, with the exception of the meter, that belongs to Lowell Power.
so I'm comfortable with because I think there's certain situations, I think the may is the appropriate wording as compared to
Shall.
written in stone, because I think there's always some different circumstances that come up that if it's may, gives the leeway to have our management or whatever negotiate with, you know, with what is in the best interest of all parties. And that might be, you're
Yeah.
gonna pay for half and we'll pay for half, or no, you're gonna do all of it, or no, we're gonna do all of it. You know, I think the
It has to be
may
legal room.
Mm-hmm.
thing allows our management to discretionally determine what is in the
What the
best
best
interest of
result
all
is.
parties.
All right, good. I think that's all I had. I did last month hand out the MPPA quarterly power supply report and promised you that we would go through it this month. But I'll wait till next month. And,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have.
Okay. 6D is scheduled meetings. In your packet is a schedule of meetings. Some that have already taken place and some that are up to our next meeting in November. Any questions about that? The next is complaint registry, and from my understanding from our staff, there has been no new complaints. Our next regular Lowell Light and Power Board meeting will be Thursday, November 13th at 6 o'clock here at our office. And board comment. Andrew?
I guess I just want to say thanks for the discussion, because even though we had a long talk about, this issue, personally I enjoy it, because I think that's kind of what we're here to do, and that's the kind of discussion that makes us better in the long run, because it really helps shape how we handle these kind of things, so other similar things won't happen like that in the future. And also, thanks to the staff and for the members of public and council who sat through all that. But lots of disagreement, and I think that's good. That's good that we talked it out, and I'm just glad we do that kind of stuff. And we've got a lot of bright people here that are sorting things out. And other than that, just loving the weather lately.
Okay. Tina?
I really don't have anything. I'm all talked out from our passionate discussion about the lines and the depths and what have you. I'm pretty proud that we have this open discussion. We do have, like you had said, we have some pretty smart people at the table that bring up great points, and we all want to make the community happy. We want to follow suit. We do need to answer, and I'd like to have it go away, and have everybody happy too. But there's a fine line on some things, and I'm learning right along, and I do appreciate everybody's patience for that. So with that, also, isn't this weekend Harvest Festival?
Yes, it is.
So I can't wait. Everybody come down, and I'll be down there grilling hot dogs with everybody else, and I'm looking forward to that and talking with the community one-on-one. So come on down.
Pamela?
I just want to congratulate Steve and thank you for all the work you do that got us such a great audit.
Welcome.
Yes, definitely.
And I have a request, Greg. We had talked last month when you handed us these lovely binders with all the policies in them about the fact we were going to go through them. I think maybe we can put together a schedule and each month put that on the agenda that we're looking at least at one policy, so that we're really taking the time to review these and make sure they're current and the way that we're doing business and the way we want to move forward.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, we had a spirited meeting Monday night, and
You too?
probably read about it in the Ledger, and I thank the board for their conversation tonight. It's always good to make sure that we have doable policies, and we address the things that need to be looked at. Yes, Harvest Festival is this weekend, and we're all looking forward to that. There's also the Lowell community cleanup down at the fairgrounds, so if you've got a truckload of junk, you can take that down there. Only one. And also looking ahead a little bit, I believe it's the city's responsibility for that after holiday party. So we'll be looking into that. Just want to make sure that we're still on with that.
Yes.
And we'll look forward to
So do January.
doing the hosting. Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Howe, you want anything? Okay.
Oh, is he here?
Yeah.
How about that?
He's been sitting there for a while.
I was sitting next to my friend, but apparently he's not my friend. But he left his
He
jacket.
left his jacket for
I'll bring his jacket home for him.
Just to keep you company.
My comments, I attended Lowell Trails last night meeting, and again, from the Trails Committee, they want to thank the Light and Power for getting those anchors in. I know I have already, but again, it was brought up in the meeting, and they were very appreciative of that. Number two, the discussions that we had, I think, are very good. I think each one of us are very passionate, and I think that was a term that you used, and I think that's very good. We're each one of us are dedicated to this board, dedicated to for Lowell Light and Power to strive to be a premier utility in the country. And I think each one of us brings something to the table, and even though that, let's just say, we can agree to disagree, when I don't always agree with everything, and my voice raises, and I get very passionate about it, but at the end of the day, I think we're all doing what we feel is best for Light and Power and the community, and we can continue to have those discussions and move forward. And with that, I would entertain a motion to go to closed session to have an update on the union negotiations.
So moved.
Do I have support?
Support.
I think we need to do a roll call,
Okay, roll
Right.
call.
right? So Beecham,
Yes.
Caldwelder,
Yep.
Yes.
Chauvin, and Spicer.
Yes.
And note that Greg Canfield had to leave, chairman had to leave early, had something that came up. So with that, we'll go to closed session.
So it wasn't just his favorite TV show that came up.
Perhaps it was.
He got a couple phone calls. I'm guessing something flooded or broke. I don't know.